But I've changed my mind on that because that's not the way that they see it. They see it as an infringement on their time with you and a distraction. And so when my attention diverts to talking to one of those people, like my kid will just be standing there like, when is this going to be over with? Like they're annoyed by it. So I'm a little bit more protective when I'm with my children than I used to be.
Yeah. So funny, like as a parent, you're like, they're going to think this is cool.
Yeah,
nothing's
you quickly
cool.
realize, like,
Yes.
I always thought, like, I'm going to be the cool dad. I always know what the cool music is. I'm up on the fashion trends. Like, there is no way that I'm ever going to be, like, put out to pasture or past my expiration date. And what you learn is it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Like there is nothing that you can do that they will think is cool or worthy of their like appreciation. It's rigged that way, and it should be that way.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like kids remind you of kind of those ego moments, you know, they really bring you back to presence. And I have to agree, you know, we've always had that experience where people are just kind and it just feels like an extension of the intimacy that we create on the podcast, which is so nice. When you started the pod, you know, for us it did feel like we were kind of meeting a level of our purpose. What did it feel like when you started the Ritual podcast?
I mean, there wasn't a lot of forethought or intention. I've been doing this for coming up on 10 years at this point.
Wow.
So I certainly wasn't one of the first podcasts. Podcasting had been around for a number of years. I think like 2007 or 6 or something like that is when it really began. I started mine in late 2012. So although, you know, the medium had existed for a number of years, it was really a wide open space where there wasn't a lot of super compelling content. A lot of comedians had podcasts, you know, Joe Rogan, Adam Carolla, Kevin Smith, people like that. But nobody was doing anything all that interesting in the health and wellness space yet. Certainly not in the fitness space or just in the kind of general growth expansion space. And I felt like maybe I have something to say about this, or I could contribute. And I know a couple cool people. And I'd fallen in love with podcasting way before most people had, because when I was training for these crazy ultra endurance races, I just spent a lot of time alone on my bike or running. And I didn't want to do it in total silence all the time. And I couldn't just listen to music. So I discovered podcasts. And this was pre-iPhone, so you had to really want to listen to a podcast. If you, like, I had to download a whole bunch of them from my desktop computer and then bounce them to one of those big old clunky white iPods.
Yes.
And then, rig a pocket to, carry that around with me. But I just loved it. And I was confused why more people weren't listening to podcasts, because it was so nourishing to me. And I just thought this is like unbelievable. And I would talk about it to friends and they'd just be like, yeah, I'm not, it's like, who cares, whatever. Like, no, I couldn't get anybody excited about it. But because I'd listened to thousands of hours of podcasts before I started mine, I felt like, I had kind of figured out how to do this. So when I had the inkling to begin one, it was in the aftermath of Finding Ultra, my first book, coming out, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And it just felt like a cool, creative experiment. Now when people start podcasts, they have a whole strategy, they bank a whole bunch, they know how to release like a couple, there's like a whole thing that didn't exist back then. Like, I just used my stepson's microphones because they're musicians. I spent a day trying to figure out how you get these things up on iTunes, which is pretty clunky. It's not that easy. And then thought, well, let's give it a try. And Julie and I sat down in a warehouse in Hawaii and recorded one. And when we were done, I thought, that was fun. Like, let's do it again tomorrow. I mean, it was really nothing more than that. And ever since, just continued to build. And the show has grown gradually. There weren't any, huge, crazy viral moments or anything like that. It's just been persistently showing up for it week after week after week. I've never missed a week. And, it's grown into the thing that it is today. And the ecosystem and the audience has, kind of come along for the ride. Like, now podcasting is obviously very different than it was back then. It's a whole crazy industry that I would have never expected. And it certainly wasn't, in my mind that this would be a vocation or something that could support my family. That's just been an added bonus of just following something that I was curious about and that I felt passionate about.
What did you feel like at that time? Did you feel like you had a purpose? Did you feel like you were looking for your purpose? Because I'm always so curious about that path when we kind of lose sight of what we thought was our purpose, which is something, that you did. And then you're in this space of looking for purpose, but it's not what you're perceiving it's going to be. Like the podcast turned into something that was very much a part of your purpose, but it wasn't something you were searching for. So along that path, for people that want to find purpose in their life and want to find a life that feels meaningful and feels like they can be themselves and they could be and express parts of them, what advice would you give for people looking to find purpose?
I mean, I have a lot to say about this. I mean, I think that purpose is really a function of engaging with your curiosity and following your instincts and your intuition. I bristle at conversations typically around purpose and passion and things like that, because those words, I think, are very triggering for a lot of people.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Morning Microdose by Almost 30.
We hope you enjoyed waking up.
As always, we encourage you to take what resonates and leave the rest. If you enjoyed this trip, tune into the full episode on the Almost 30 podcast. All episode information can be found in the show notes.
Make sure to subscribe, and if this becomes a part of your morning routine, be sure to share it with a friend. We have new inspiring doses Monday through Friday. Follow us on Instagram at Morning Microdose, and follow Almost 30 at Almost 30 Podcast.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the vortex.